My beloved brothers and sisters, there are moments in life when words fail us, when the heart feels heavy, when the world feels tight, when no one truly understands what you are going through. And in those moments, Allah gives you a place where you don't need eloquence, you don't need perfect words, you don't need anyone to translate your pain. That place is sujood. The Prophet, Arabic Sada, Arabic Lam, Arabic Alif, Maksura, Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, 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 Arabic Meme, told us that the closest a servant is to his Lord is while in sujood. Think about that. When your head is on the ground, when your ego is completely lowered, when you are at your most humble physical position, that is when you are closest to the Most High. It is not coincidence. It is mercy. Because Allah wants you to come to Him in your lowest posture so your heart rises in the highest connection. Sometimes people think dua needs long speeches, beautiful Arabic, or perfect wording. But Allah is not listening to your vocabulary. Allah is listening to your heart. One sincere dua in sujood can change what years of worry cannot. You might whisper only one sentence. You might not even have words, just tears. And that is enough, because sujood is not just a movement. It is surrender. It is you saying, Ya Allah, I tried everything. Now I am coming to you. And let me tell you something beautiful about Allah's response. When you make dua, Allah never ignores it. Never. The answer may come immediately. The answer may be delayed. Or the answer may be something better than what you asked for. But it is always answered. We sometimes think delay means denial. But in reality, delay can be preparation. Allah is protecting you from something you cannot see, or preparing you for something you are not ready for. And sometimes what you asked for is replaced with something far greater than you didn't even imagine. So when you are in sujood, never rush it. Don't treat it like a routine. Treat it like a meeting with the one who controls everything you are worried about. That problem you are carrying, Allah is bigger than it. That pain you are hiding, Allah knows it. That fear you cannot explain, Allah understands it. And in sujood, even if you only say one dua, say it with certainty. Ya Allah, forgive me, Ya Allah, help me, Ya Allah, guide me, Ya Allah, fix my heart. Simple words, but coming from a sincere heart, they carry weight in the heavens. Never underestimate a broken heart in sujood, because a broken heart is not weak in the sight of Allah, it is powerful. It is in that brokenness that arrogance disappears and sincerity appears. And Allah loves sincerity more than perfection. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, don't just sit with your worries. Don't just overthink. Don't just scroll for distractions. Stand up, make wudu, and go into sujood. And stay there a little longer than usual, because maybe, just maybe, that one sujood will contain the dua that changes everything. When we talk about sujood, we are talking about something far deeper than just a physical movement in prayer. It is not simply placing the forehead on the ground and then lifting it again. It is a moment of truth, a moment where everything about pride, status, wealth, and identity fades away, and what remains is only the servant and the Lord of all creation. The reality is, in our daily lives, we are constantly standing tall. We walk with confidence, we speak with authority, we try to present ourselves in the best possible way in front of people. We care about how we look, how we are perceived, what people think about us. But in sujood, all of that disappears in an instant. There is no posture more humbling than placing the highest part of your body, your forehead, on the lowest possible point, the ground. And it is in this exact state that Allah has told us something deeply beautiful, that the closest a servant ever becomes to Him is while in sujood. Think about that carefully. Not in moments of wealth, not in moments of success, not in moments when people praise you or recognize you, but in a moment where you are physically lowered, spiritually softened, and emotionally exposed. This teaches us something powerful about the nature of our relationship with Allah. Closeness to Allah is not built on pride. It is not built on arrogance. It is not built on showcasing ourselves to the world. It is built on humility. It is built on breaking down the ego that constantly tells us we are in control. In sujood, you are declaring with your entire being that you are not in control, that you need Allah, that without Him, you are nothing. And that is why this moment carries such deep mercy within it, because Allah does not need your status. He does not need your appearance. He does not need your accomplishments. He wants your heart. And in sujood, the heart is finally free from distractions. You are not looking left or right. You are not performing for anyone. You are not trying to impress anyone. It is just you and your Creator. Sometimes people underestimate sujood because it is repetitive in prayer. They rush through it. They treat it like a transition rather than a destination. But if we understood what is happening in that moment, we would never rush it again. We would stay longer. We would speak more. We would cry more. Because where else in life do you get such closeness? Where else do you get to be in a position where the doors of mercy are so wide open? Even in our human experience, when we want to show respect, we stand for someone important. But in the divine presence, the ultimate respect, is to lower yourself completely. And Allah, out of His infinite mercy, elevates you precisely at the moment you lower yourself. This is a reminder that true honor is not in standing above others, but in lowering yourself before your Lord. The world teaches us to rise in status, but faith teaches us that real elevation begins when we humble ourselves in sujood. And the more sincere the sujood, the more powerful the connection becomes. There are people who may feel distant from Allah because of their sins, their mistakes, or their past, but sujood erases that distance. It is never about perfection. It is about presence. The moment you place your head on the ground with sincerity, you are as close as you can possibly be. And that is why no heart should ever feel hopeless, because the path to closeness is always open. It is not locked behind wealth or status or knowledge. It is right there, accessible in every prayer, waiting for a heart that is willing to bow. Sujood is often seen only as a physical act in prayer, something that is performed as part of a routine. But in reality, it is one of the deepest emotional and spiritual expressions a human being can experience. It is the moment where the heart finally speaks without barriers, where the soul finally expresses what words in the tongue often fail to carry, and where a person fully submits not just their body, but their entire inner world to Allah. When a person goes into sujood, something changes inside them. It is not just the lowering of the body, it is the lowering of the ego. And the ego is something that constantly tries to make us feel independent, strong, self-sufficient, and in control. It whispers that we do not need help, that we can handle everything alone, that we should rely only on ourselves. But sujood breaks that illusion completely. In sujood, a person admits without speaking that they are dependent, they are in need, they are not enough on their own. This is why sujood is not just physical worship, it is emotional surrender. It is the moment where a person stops resisting reality and accepts the truth of their existence, that they are a creation and they need their creator. It is where the heart stops fighting and starts submitting. And submission here is not defeat in a negative sense, but peace in its purest form. There are emotions that people carry for years without expressing, pain that is hidden behind smiles, anxiety that is covered with distraction, sadness that is buried under daily responsibilities. And then there are moments in sujood when all of that comes out naturally. A person may not even plan to cry, but tears begin to fall. Not because they are weak, but because they are finally honest in front of Allah. In sujood, there is no audience. There is no judgment. There is no need to explain yourself to anyone. You are not trying to be strong for others, and you are not trying to hide your struggles. You are simply there in a position of complete vulnerability, and that vulnerability becomes a doorway to healing. This is why emotional surrender in sujood is so powerful. Because when a person surrenders emotionally to Allah, they are not losing control. They are giving control to the one who already controls everything. And that changes the way a person feels inside. The heart that was heavy begins to feel lighter. The mind that was overwhelmed begins to find peace. The soul that was restless begins to settle. Sometimes people carry questions they cannot answer. Why did something happen? Why is life so difficult? Why does pain continue? These questions often have no immediate answers in the human world. But in sujood, something beautiful happens. Even without answers, the heart finds comfort. Not because the situation changes instantly, but because the connection with Allah becomes stronger than the problem itself. And that is the essence of emotional surrender. It is not about understanding everything. It is about trusting the one who understands everything. It is about reaching a point where a person says, even if I do not know the wisdom, I know the one who is wise. Even if I do not see the path, I trust the one who guides paths. Sujood teaches the heart how to let go of control, let go of fear, let go of expectations. And in that letting go, something incredible happens. The heart becomes lighter and the relationship with Allah becomes deeper. It is in this state that a person realizes they do not need to carry everything alone. They were never meant to. And in that realization, sujood becomes not just an act of worship, but a place of emotional restoration, where brokenness is not hidden, but healed through surrender. When a believer lowers themselves in sujood, something deeply profound is happening that the human eye cannot see, but the soul can feel. It is not just a posture in prayer. It is a moment where the heart is closest to its creator. And within that closeness lies a reality many people overlook. The immense power and special acceptance of dua made in sujood. There are many times in life when people make dua. They make dua after prayer. They make dua in difficulty. They make dua in moments of fear or hope. But sujood holds a unique position. It is not just a time of asking, it is a time of nearness. And nearness changes everything. Because when you are close to someone who loves you, who cares for you, who knows you deeply, your words are not just heard, they are received with attention and mercy. In sujood, A believer is not standing at a distance. They are not speaking from far away. They are in the most humble, broken, and sincere position possible. The forehead is on the ground, the heart is exposed, and the soul is unguarded. And in that state, the doer carries a different weight. It is not polished speech. It is not rehearsed words. It is raw, honest communication from a servant who has nothing left to rely on except Allah. And this is where mercy descends in ways we cannot fully comprehend. Allah does not look at eloquence. He does not look at how perfectly words are arranged. He looks at sincerity. He looks at the truth behind the words. And in sujood, sincerity becomes natural because pride has no place there. No one is trying to impress anyone. No one is performing for anyone. It is just a heart speaking to its Lord. There are moments when a person may only be able to say a few words in sujood. Sometimes even words fail completely and only tears remain. But those tears are also a form of dua because Allah understands what the tongue cannot express. And in His infinite mercy, He responds not only to what is said but also to what is felt. One of the most beautiful realities of dua in sujood is that its acceptance is not limited to a single form of response. People often think acceptance means getting exactly what they asked for immediately. But the mercy of Allah is far greater than that. Sometimes the dua is answered in the exact way it was asked. Sometimes it is delayed because the timing is being perfected. And sometimes it is replaced with something better that the servant did not even imagine. And this is where trust is built. Because a believer begins to understand that delay is not denial and silence is not rejection. In sujood, when a person repeatedly turns to Allah with the same concern, the same pain, the same hope, something beautiful happens inside them. Their heart begins to soften into acceptance of divine wisdom. They begin to realize that the one they are speaking to knows what they do not know. Sujood becomes a place where desperation turns into hope and hope turns into certainty. A person may enter sujood feeling broken, but they rise from it with a renewed sense of peace, even if their situation has not changed yet. That peace is itself a sign of mercy. Because sometimes the first answer to a dua is not a changed circumstance, but a changed heart. And this is why scholars and righteous people always emphasize lengthening sujood, especially in personal prayer. Because in that moment, a person is not just fulfilling an obligation, they are opening a door to divine mercy. Every second spent in sujood is an opportunity for forgiveness, for guidance, for relief, and for closeness. It is important for a believer to understand that no dua made in sujood is ever wasted. Even if the answer is not immediately visible, it is stored, it is recorded, and it is being shaped into the best possible outcome by the one who is most wise. So when a person lowers themselves in sujood and whispers their needs, they should never underestimate what is happening. They are speaking directly from the lowest physical position, but spiritually they are at one of the highest points of connection. And in that sacred moment, mercy is closer than they can imagine, and acceptance is nearer than they think. One of the most misunderstood aspects of dua is how Allah responds to it. Many people assume that when they ask Allah for something, the response must look exactly the way they expect it, and it must come within the time frame they want. But life with Allah is not transactional in that way. It is not limited by human expectations or human timing. The response of Allah to every sincere dua is always present, but it comes in ways that are far more wise, layered, and merciful than we often realize. When a person raises their hands or goes into sujood and makes dua, something significant has already taken place. They have turned to Allah. That act alone is a sign of guidance, because not every heart is even moved to ask. The very ability to call upon Allah is itself a gift. And once the dua is made, the response begins immediately, even if the results are not immediately visible. Sometimes Allah answers the dua in the exact form it was requested. A person asks for relief and relief comes. A person asks for healing and healing is granted. A person asks for a door to open and suddenly the path becomes clear. These moments strengthen faith and remind the believer that Allah is near and responsive. But not every dua is answered in this immediate and visible way. Sometimes the answer is delayed, and this delay is not neglect or forgetfulness. It is preparation. Because Allah sees what we do not see. He knows the outcomes we are unaware of. A delay may mean that the timing is being perfected so that when the answer arrives, it brings benefit without harm. There are things we ask for in haste that if given too quickly might not be good for us in the long run. So Allah, out of His mercy, holds it back until it is truly beneficial. There are also times when the response is not what was asked for, but something better. This is one of the most beautiful forms of divine wisdom. A person may ask for a specific path, but Allah gives them a different path that leads to greater peace, greater protection, or greater reward. At the time, it may not make sense. In fact, it may feel like something was missed. But over time, the believer begins to see that what they were given was far more valuable than what they originally wanted. And then there is another form of response that many people overlook completely: protection from harm. Sometimes a person makes dua for something, and instead of receiving it, they are saved from something they did not even know was dangerous. A closed door may actually be a form of mercy. A relationship that did not work out, a job that was lost, a path that was blocked, these may all be ways Allah is protecting the believer from unseen difficulty. And only later does the heart realize that what seemed like loss was actually safety. This understanding transforms the way a believer views life. It removes the anxiety of immediate results and replaces it with trust in divine wisdom. The heart begins to rest in the knowledge that every sincere dua is heard and every response is meaningful, even if it is not immediately understood. The Prophet's teachings make it clear that no dua goes unanswered. But unanswered does not mean unacknowledged. It means the response is happening in one of these three ways. It is given exactly as asked, it is delayed for a better time, or it is replaced with something better and more beneficial. All three are forms of mercy because all three are guided by perfect knowledge. A believer who understands this no longer panics in delay. They do not lose hope when things do not unfold quickly. Instead, they continue making dua with consistency, knowing that their Lord is not ignoring them. He is managing their life with wisdom that surpasses their understanding. This is why patience and dua always go together, because dua is the act of asking and patience is the act of trusting the response. Without patience, a person may abandon hope, but with patience, a person remains connected even when they cannot see the outcome yet. In the end, every sincere dua finds its answer. It may not always match the expectation, but it always matches divine wisdom. And when a believer realizes this, their relationship with Allah shifts from urgency to trust, from anxiety to peace, and from questioning to certainty. One of the most beautiful truths about worship is that Allah does not measure it the way human beings measure things. People often think that value is in length, in quantity, in how much is said, or how long something is done. But in the sight of Allah, sincerity carries more weight than anything else. And this becomes very clear when we reflect on dua, especially in sujood, where a servant stands in the most humble position possible before their Lord. Many people feel discouraged when they cannot make long duas. They think their words are not enough, or that they do not know how to speak properly to Allah. Some even compare themselves with others who seem more fluent, more expressive, or more knowledgeable. But in reality, Allah is not listening to how long your dua is. He is listening to how real it is. The heart behind the words is what matters most. A person may spend a long time speaking without sincerity, but another person may whisper just a few broken words with complete honesty, and that is more beloved to Allah. Because sincerity is not about presentation. It is about truth. It is when the heart and tongue align without pretense. It is when a person is not trying to impress, but simply trying to connect. In sujood, sincerity becomes even more powerful because in that position there is no room for pride. The body itself is in a state of submission. The forehead is on the ground, the ego is lowered, and the heart is exposed. In such a state, even a short dua carries immense weight because it is coming from a place of humility and dependence. Sometimes a person may only be able to say, Ya Allah, help me, and nothing more. But that one sentence, if it comes from a heart that is broken and sincere, can carry more value than pages of words. Because Allah is not distant from the one who is calling him. He is near, and he understands what is behind the words even before they are spoken. There is also something deeply important to understand. Sincerity is not measured by emotional display alone. A person may cry loudly, but without sincerity, and another may have dry eyes but a deeply sincere heart. So it is not the tears that matter, but the truth behind the tears. It is not the volume of emotion, but the honesty within it. The Prophet Arabic Sada, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lif Maksura, Arabic Lif, Arabic Lam, 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 Arabic Meme, taught us that Allah looks at the hearts and the deeds, not appearances. This means that what is hidden inside a person is far more important than what is visible on the outside. And this brings comfort to those who feel they are not good enough in their worship. Because Allah does not demand perfection in expression, He values honesty and intention. Sincerity also has a purifying effect. When a person makes dua sincerely, they are not just asking for something, they are also cleansing their heart. Because sincerity removes arrogance, removes showing off, removes comparison, and brings the servant into a state of true humility. And in that state, the connection with Allah becomes stronger than ever. This is why even small acts done sincerely are Arabic teen, Arabic tat, Arabic Farsi da, Arabic meme in reward. A short sujood with a truthful heart can become a turning point in a person's life. It may not look powerful to people, but in the unseen world, it carries immense value. There is also a hidden beauty in simplicity. Sometimes people complicate dua, thinking they must use specific words or long sentences. But sincerity removes complexity. It brings the heart back to simplicity. A believer begins to speak to Allah in their own words, in their own language, from their own pain. And that is more powerful than any memorized expression, because it is real. So the lesson is clear. Do not underestimate simple duas. Do not feel that your words are too small or too few. If they come from sincerity, they are never small in the sight of Allah. In fact, they may be the most powerful thing you ever say. Because in the end, Allah does not measure the size of your words. He measures the truth of your heart. And when sincerity is present, even the shortest dua becomes Arabic teen, Arabic tat, Arabic Farsi, ya Arabic meme in meaning. Arabic teen, Arabic tat, Arabic Tarsi, ya Arabic meme in value. And Arabic teen, Arabic tat, Arabic Tarsi, ya Arabic meme in acceptance. There is something deeply human about feeling broken. Every person, no matter how strong they appear on the outside, carries moments of weakness within them. Some people hide it behind silence, some behind smiles, and some behind busyness. But the truth is that every heart experiences cracks at some point in life. And in those moments, people often feel like brokenness is a sign of weakness. But in reality, in the presence of Allah, brokenness is not a weakness at all. It is a doorway to mercy. When a person goes into sujood with a broken heart, something very special happens. It is as though all the walls they have built around their emotions come down. They are no longer pretending to be strong. They are no longer trying to hold everything together. They are simply there in front of Allah as they truly are. And that honesty is one of the most beloved states a servant can be in. In life, people often value strength. Strength in speech, strength in appearance, strength in confidence. But Allah teaches us something different. Allah shows us that true strength is not in hiding pain, but in bringing it before Him. The broken heart that turns to Allah in sujood is not defeated, it is elevated, because it has chosen the right place to place its pain. There is a quiet power in a person who does not run away from their brokenness, but instead carries it into sujood. They do not numb it with distractions. They do not suppress it with denial. They do not ignore it with arrogance. Instead, they place it exactly where it belongs on the ground, before the one who heals hearts. And this is where something beautiful happens. In that brokenness, sincerity is born. Because when a heart is shattered, it cannot pretend anymore. It cannot perform. It cannot fake emotions. It can only be real. And Allah loves what is real, not what is polished for people, but what is true in private.
Many times people think that they need to be fixed before they come to Allah.
They think they must become better, more disciplined, more perfect before they can truly connect. But sujood teaches the opposite. It teaches that you come to Allah broken, and it is that coming that begins the healing. You do not wait to be whole before you turn to Him. You turn to Him so He can make you whole. A broken heart in sujood is not rejected. It is embraced. Because sujood itself is a position of brokenness. When you place your forehead on the ground, you are physically demonstrating humility. And when that physical humility matches an emotional humility, something powerful is formed. Complete sincerity. There are hearts that have experienced loss, disappointment, betrayal, confusion, and deep sadness. And sometimes these experiences leave marks that are not visible to anyone else. But Allah sees them all. And in sujood, the servant does not need to explain anything. There is no need for long descriptions. Allah already knows the story. But the act of bringing that broken heart into sujood is itself an act of trust. It is saying, Ya Allah, I am not okay, but I am coming to you anyway. And that is one of the most beautiful forms of worship. Not the worship of perfection, but the worship of need. And in that need, mercy descends. Because Allah is not distant from the broken. He is close to those who turn to Him in their brokenness. The very moment a person lowers their head in sujood with sincerity, they are placing their pain in the safest possible place in existence. Over time, something changes in that heart. It may still remember what broke it, but it no longer carries the same weight. Because sujood does not always remove the memory, but it transforms the burden. The pain that once felt unbearable becomes lighter because it has been shared with the one who has infinite mercy. And this is why brokenness should never be a reason to turn away from Allah. It should be the reason to turn toward Him even more. Because a broken heart in sujood is not the end of strength, that is the beginning of healing, the beginning of closeness, and the beginning of a new mercy that was not visible before. In the end, this is the reality every believer needs to hold on to. Sujood is not just a part of prayer, it is a lifeline between the servant and Allah. It is the moment where distance disappears, where pride dissolves, and where the heart speaks in its most honest form. When a believer understands the value of even one sincere sujood, they begin to see worship not as a routine, but as a relationship. We may go through days filled with confusion, pain, unanswered questions, and silent struggles that no one else understands. But sujood becomes the place where all of that is placed before Allah without filters, without fear, and without hesitation. And in that moment, even if the world does not change immediately, the heart changes, and that change is itself a sign of mercy. A single sincere dua in sujood is never wasted. It is never ignored. It is never forgotten. It is either answered in the way we expect, delayed for a wisdom we cannot yet see, or replaced with something far better that protects us and elevates us beyond what we asked for. So the believer never loses hope. They never stop going into sujood. They never underestimate what happens when their forehead touches the ground and their heart turns to Allah. Because that is where brokenness turns into healing, silence turns into conversation, and distance turns into closeness. And perhaps the greatest lesson is this: the lowest physical position in sujood becomes the highest spiritual connection a human being can ever experience.